The 10th anniversary event for Dead by Daylight was one of the most hyped events in the game's history. This event was so highly anticipated that the game ended up breaking a new concurrent player count record on Steam. But all this hype was dampened when the realization set in that this event is a complete mess. I don't know about you, but this seems like the most quintessential DBD thing to happen. To kick things off, the Bloodpoint offering, one of the most important features of DBD's anniversary events, has an increased rarity and a predetermined amount of times it can spawn in Bloodwebs. Unless your character is at P100, you're going to be shorted in the number of offerings you obtain. Thankfully, the Survivor P100 Bloodweb gives at least one of each anniversary item plus the offering, so that's a small positive. The devs have acknowledged the issue as well, so a fix is potentially in the works. I think the fix for this should be pretty self-explanatory though, so hopefully this gets resolved pretty soon. When looking at the actual event itself though, it's a bit wilder than even I was anticipating. One quick glance at the gameplay details for this event is all that's needed to validate how messy it is. And while I do admire the ambitious design philosophy for the event, I genuinely don't understand how this event ended up being so survivor-sided. The amount of buffs and bonuses that survivors have going for them in this event is so vast that I'm not even sure I remember all of them. The benefits that survivors can be granted during this event range from simple things like haste and endurance to ultra-powerful abilities like invisibility and invincibility. Some other powerful tools that survivors can utilize during this event are things like a mini sprint burst, elusive, portals which allow teleportation around the map, with them also occasionally refreshing held items or granting new ones, map-wide insta-heals which can be especially bad with any coordinated groups, pallets that can be repaired and reset map-wide, and on top of this, pallets can also become temporarily invincible, meaning they are not able to be broken. And while the specific status effects and bonuses vary from match to match, it's quite insane, I must say, that this many benefits were added for survivors. I remember hoping for the 10th anniversary event to be some sort of throwback to 2016 DBD, given that it's 10 years since the game first started, and ideally with the event being something that could incorporate the crazy lopsided nature of the game from back then, with a few modern buffs and twists for killers to help compensate. However, this event is definitely not what I was hoping for. I don't remember having portals, invincible pallets, or full-on invincibility or invisibility in 2016. I do remember having plenty of insta-heals and haste, but these bonuses were included in previous anniversary events, so it doesn't really add anything brand new. So given how much stuff survivors were granted for this event, how does it compare to the stuff killers were given? Well, killers were basically given only one real bonus, with that being the ability to poison survivors. Poisoning survivors causes a temporary introduction of a stamina bar. As the survivor runs, the stamina meter quickly drains. If the stamina bar fully depletes, a survivor is forced to walk for several seconds until their stamina returns. A survivor is able to prevent the stamina bar from draining by walking or stopping movement altogether. However, this is easier said than done, especially when in a chase. And as I was editing this video, I totally forgot to mention this fucking pallet shit that's happening. Do you see this? Rebecca got stuttered, I got stuttered. It's just so fucking weird. Why is this even a thing? What's happening? These fragile pallets were a thing in previous anniversary events. Why are they suddenly bugged now? I don't get it. Continuing on though, the poisoning is mostly oppressive against killers that can easily zone survivors into a lose-lose scenario. Either the survivor holds W to run to the next loop, which ends up draining their stamina bar and thus losing the ability to run, or they just get hit by the killer and use any speed boost they get to make it to the next loop. It's definitely not a very fun or interactive ability on either side. It doesn't feel good as a survivor to be forced with so little options, and it doesn't feel good as a killer to be given a guaranteed hit or down. But this feature is way more problematic when diving a bit deeper. This is because at its worst, certain killers like the Legion can exploit the stamina meter in the most oppressive manner. If a survivor is in the deep wound status, the mending bar will start depleting if the survivor stops running, and because the stamina meter drains so quickly in a chase, a survivor can be forced to walk, thus depleting the mending bar, and thus forcing survivors to fall to the ground. Wow, who knew that the true throwback for this event would be the reappearance of a released Legion? This was certainly a planned feature for this event and was most definitely not an oversight of any kind. And then when you consider the fact that there's other killers that now exist with deep wounds as part of their power, it really just makes everything even better. Given how many bonuses survivors can be granted, the poisoning and stamina meter certainly levels the playing field at least a little bit. However, nothing about the stamina meter feels fun or rewarding. I could keep going about the stamina meter itself, but there's something else about the event that can favor killers. An unintended feature of this event, and something that can actually benefit killers quite a lot, is the increase in 3-gens that are spawning. This increase is made possible because of the way the banquet tables spawn. Essentially, the banquet tables, which is where you set the plates of food on, were coded to spawn where generators normally do. As a result, it's messing with the overall generator spawn logic on some maps, causing generators to spawn super close together and increasing the likelihood of 3-gen situations. Here's a few egregious examples of what I'm talking about. Take Sanctum of Wrath as the first example. I played on this map twice, once as killer and once as survivor, and both matches had 5 generators spawn on one side of the map. The main building didn't even spawn its normal generator, which made the 5 generators that spawned on that one side of the map even stronger to defend. Another example is Fractured Cowshed, as I had a match that spawned a fairly tight 3-gen in one corner of the map. And while this map has more recently started to spawn some mild 3-gen setups, this one was one of the worst I'd seen in a while. The last example, and perhaps the most eye-opening one that I believe best exemplifies the generator spawning problem the most, is Badham Preschool. I played a match as Billy and I got Badham, and I was given a pretty easy 3-gen to defend in the streets, with it almost being a 4-gen. But what made this so eye-opening is that one of the generators that was part of the 3-gen spawned in an old location. And by old location, I mean this is where a generator used to spawn, but it doesn't ever anymore. I have never seen a... It's been forever since I've seen a gen spawn over there. That's how you know this is bad. This is insane. I used to spawn on this side. This generator spawn against the fence used to always occur back when this map first released in 2017, albeit on the other side of the fence. But now, because of the way this event works, a generator has a possibility of spawning here again. I imagine this is only happening because there's only a limited number of places for generators to spawn, thus causing some old spawn locations to reappear. But man, this was truly a throwback when I saw this. All in all, I appreciate the ambition and hard work that went into this event. But there's no question that this event has some major flaws. I respectfully have no idea how this event even went to live as it is right now, because the list of problematic things that this event contains is rather long. It is important to note that since this event is scheduled to go to about mid-July, there is a chance that some of the issues discussed in this video could be fixed or updated before this event is over. I'm only cautiously optimistic about that though, as there's no confirmation yet that a future bug fix will address anything in the event itself. At a minimum though, the bloodpoint offering should be made available at every level of the Bloodweb. It's the 10th anniversary, for crying out loud. Everyone deserves a lot of blood points. That's all I have for now. Thanks for watching.